Officer Jack Calloway pulled into the parking lot of Pete's Diner, his usual morning coffee spot. The air was thick with the scent of burnt toast and overcooked eggs as he stepped out of his patrol car. He was already in a bad mood. His ex-wife was nagging him for alimony again, and his chief had just warned him about his behavior on duty. Then, he saw her. A black woman in a sleek navy blue pantsuit was walking toward the entrance. She had an air of confidence that irritated him. Something about the way she carried herself, head high, shoulders back, made him grit his teeth. "Move it, lady," he barked, pushing past her roughly with his shoulder. She stumbled, her coffee spilling onto her wrist. "Excuse me," she snapped, glaring up at him. Jack sneered. "Watch where you're going." Her expression shifted from shock to something unreadable. She studied him for a moment, then wiped her hand off calmly. "Noted," she said, her voice cool. Jack shook his head and marched inside. He didn't have time for entitled women, especially ones who thought they were his equal. An unpleasant surprise. Later that morning, Jack strolled into the precinct, still irritated. He was due for a shift briefing, where the new department restructuring would be announced. As he entered the briefing room, he spotted Chief Reynolds at the front. Beside him stood the last person he wanted to see, her. The black woman from the diner. Jack froze. His stomach twisted. "Good morning, everyone," Chief Reynolds said, adjusting his glasses. "I'd like you to meet our new Deputy Commissioner of Internal Affairs, Kamila Turner. She'll be overseeing disciplinary measures and operational reforms across all precincts in the district." Jack's blood ran cold. Internal Affairs. Camilla's eyes met his. There was no anger, no smugness, just a quiet, steady gaze that saw right through him. "Good to meet you all," she said smoothly. "I look forward to working with each of you, closely." Jack's fingers curled into fists. He knew what that meant. She knew. And now, she had power over him. Checkmate. The briefing ended, and Jack rushed out, hoping to avoid her. But as he reached the hallway, a voice stopped him. "Officer Calloway." He turned slowly. Kamila stood there, arms crossed, her gaze sharp but calm. "Ma'am," he muttered, forcing himself to look respectful. "You were quite direct this morning," she said. "I assume you don't treat all citizens that way." Jack swallowed hard. I'll be reviewing your record personally," she said, stepping closer. "Every single complaint." Jack felt a bead of sweat roll down his neck. "But don't worry," Kamila added, a small, knowing smile on her lips. "I believe in second chances, for those who deserve them." Jack's mouth went dry. He knew what was coming. Either he changed, or his career was over. For the first time in years, Officer Jack Calloway felt powerless. And Kamila Turner walked away, knowing justice had just begun. Jack Calloway sat at his desk, his jaw clenched so hard it ached. The walls of the precinct felt smaller, pressing in on him. His whole career, he'd gotten away with things, roughing up suspects, talking down to people who didn't belong, making sure people like Kamila Turner never had the power to challenge him. And now, she was his boss. Every time he saw her, his stomach twisted. She didn't gloat. She didn't throw her power in his face. That made it worse. She just did her job, always professional, always watching. And Jack knew she was waiting. Waiting for him to mess up. The investigation. 2 weeks passed, and Kamila didn't say much to him beyond polite nods in the hallway. But then it happened. "Calloway, my office." "Now." Jack's heart pounded as he stepped into the small glass-walled office that now belonged to Deputy Commissioner Kamila Turner. She was seated at her desk, flipping through a folder. Jack sat stiffly in the chair across from her, his palms damp. She took her time before speaking. "Officer Calloway," she said, finally looking up. "I've been reviewing your record. Multiple complaints of excessive force, racial profiling, and unprofessional conduct." Jack said nothing. Kamila leaned back, tilting her head. "Here's the thing. You've been shielded by this department for years. Every complaint was brushed under the rug. You got comfortable." Jack's teeth ground together. She placed a new file on the desk, sliding it toward him. "This was filed yesterday. A woman reported you for harassment during a traffic stop." Jack's pulse spiked. Dashcam footage confirms her account, Kamila continued. She says you called her aggressive for questioning you. Then, when she asked for a badge number, you told her she didn't belong in that neighborhood. Jack's fists clenched on his lap. He could feel the walls closing in. Now, Kamila said, her voice smooth as silk, I could escalate this to internal affairs and have you suspended immediately. But I want to know something first. Jack swallowed. What? She leaned forward. Why are you like this? That question hit harder than he expected. For a second, his mind flashed to his childhood, his father, a bitter old cop who preached about knowing your place. About keeping them in line. About how real officers didn't take orders from people like her. But Jack wasn't about to spill his life story to Kamila Turner. He scoffed. I do my job. That's it. She studied him, unimpressed. Your job? Or your excuse? Silence. Kamila exhaled, shaking her head. You have two choices, Calloway. 1. I launch a full investigation, and trust me, you won't survive it. 2. You take a mandatory training program on racial bias, de-escalation tactics, and professionalism. Jack bristled. You want me to sit in some woke seminar about how I'm a bad person? Kamila smirked. I don't care what you think about it. But you will do it. Because if you don't, you won't be wearing that badge much longer. Jack stared at her. This was it. The moment he realized his past had finally caught up to him. He could fight it. Or he could change. For the first time in his life, Jack Calloway had to make the right choice. And Kamila Turner? She wasn't waiting for him to fail. She was daring him to be better.